I won't even say good morning to you because I know it's not a good morning to you. How are you holding up?
I am, we're taking it minute by minute, hour by hour. I mean, this type of situation tends to come in waves. I've found with myself and with other people that I've talked to from that night.
Yeah. Chaotic. Can you take us inside if you don't mind reliving this?
Yeah, of course, of course. I was working behind the bar on a seemingly normal Saturday night, and around 11:55 or so, I heard a few popping sounds, and at first I thought it might have been one of the clacking fans that you see often at LGBT clubs. And when I looked up, I quickly realized that was not the case. I saw the outline of a man holding a rifle at the entrance of the club, just probably about 15 feet from me. And then, it took a moment to register what was happening, but once it hit me, this was actually happening in real life to me and my friends. I ducked behind the bar, and as I did that, glass began to spew everywhere, all around me.
Yeah. Now, I understand you knew Daniel Aston, who was killed in the club. Can you tell us about him?
Yes, yes. I've known Daniel Aston for a few years now. Most recently, he's always been a friend to me, but he was my supervisor at Club Q. He was the bar supervisor, and he was the best supervisor anybody could have asked for. He made me want to come into work, and he made me want to, just be a part of the positive culture we were trying to create there. And he amazing person. He was a light in my life, and it's still surreal that we're even talking about him in the past tense like this.
Yeah. My colleagues are here as well, and I mean, we all have so many questions for you. And again, we're sorry. I'm sorry I didn't say that. We're sorry about what happened.
Thank you, Don.
We're so sorry. And like Don said, it's tough to ask you about what happened and have you relive it, but it's important, as you know, to the investigation, to what investigators are looking at. Did you hear the suspect say anything? I know there was music playing, so it was loud, but also quiet because people obviously were witnessing this shooting, hiding from this person. Did you hear him say anything as this was going on?
The closest I was to him where I could physically see a full body of a person was when he immediately came into the club. I was never close enough, or it was never quiet enough for me to hear if he was saying anything at all. I tried to be one of those people who were trying to hide from him, so I tried to avoid seeing him, so I didn't hear anything, no.
Michael, thank you for being with us. I know that at one point as you were hiding, you thought, as you looked at that gun, looked right at the barrel of the gun, thought you were not going to make it, and you did, and there were heroes around you, right, who took down the gunman. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, no, there was a moment in time where I feared I was not going to make it out of that club alive. And I have never prayed so sincerely and quickly in my life as I did in that moment. As I was anticipating that outcome and afraid for that outcome, it got quiet. As I was praying and hoping, it got silent. The gunshots stopped. So I stayed there for a minute and a half. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't see. I was hidden down in a corner. So I kept my head down, but after about a minute and a half, I decided I needed to get out of there. So I got up, and when I went inside, I saw what I believe was probably the gunman lying on the ground, getting beat up and kicked and yelled at by two very brave people who I still don't know the identity of those two people, but I hope I can find out one day, because I truly believe those two people saved my life.
Our correspondent, Nick Watt, Poppy just spoke to him moments before you came on, and he says, and look, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but because we don't know the motive, but he said that most people there have already made up their minds. They believe that it was a hate crime or that was perpetrated against the LGBTQ community. How are you feeling about that?
I have to agree that I mean, there are so many clubs. I mean, you look at how many clubs are in Colorado Springs, and then you look at how many gay clubs are in Colorado Springs. There's two, and then all the other clubs would be not a part of that statistic. I don't know what was wrong with this man. I don't know why he needed to act in this way, but he obviously had some feelings towards, I don't know if it was transgender people, gays, lesbians. I don't know. Club Q is a safe place for everybody in the spectrum of the rainbow. So I don't know who he was targeting, but I definitely feel that it was something aimed directly at my community, yet again, another time in our country.
Let's bring in Stony Burtz, who is a field coordinator for One Colorado. That is the state's leading advocacy group dedicated to advancing equality for LGBTQ Coloradans and their families. Stony, thank you, and good morning to you.
Absolutely, thank you, and good morning to you all.
You talk about how Club Q holds such symbolism and means so much. We heard Governor Polis say on CNN over the weekend, this was supposed to be a safe space in the community, and it was anything but. Rosa just reported that the DA is looking at this, investigating this through the lens of a hate crime. That is a sort of step shy of saying it was a hate crime definitively, but I wonder if there's any question in your mind.
No, I mean, to me, we definitely don't want to make assumptions, about motive and things like that as an investigation is underway and as it continues. But I think as somebody who, has been to Club Q and grew up in Club Q in a lot of ways, I don't know what else you could call it at this point.
So if this was supposed to be the safe space, is there any safe space for members of the LGBTQ community in Colorado Springs right now? What are they telling you?
I think right now we've always been the arbiters of our safe spaces, right? Like, we're always responsible for creating them. And unfortunately, we've, in a lot of ways, been the only folks invested in keeping them safe. So I think right now, there aren't a lot of safe spaces in reality. I think that what everybody's feeling is this immense amount of grief, immense amount of sorrow, immense amount of indescribable feelings for an unimaginable situation that, unfortunately, with the landscape of what we've seen in the past, is imaginable in a lot of ways. So right now, I think it's kind of up to us to lean into each other and figure out how we can make those safe spaces, but also have folks outside of our community invested in keeping them safe.
Stony, Michael Anderson is a bartender that Caitlin just mentioned moments ago to our correspondent there in the field. He spoke to us a little bit ago. I want you to hear it, and I want you to respond to it. Here it is.
He's always been a friend to me, but he was my supervisor at Club Q. He was the bar supervisor, and he was the best supervisor anybody could have asked for. He made me want to come into work, and he made me want to, just be a part of the positive culture we were trying to create there. And he amazing person. He was a light in my life, and it's still surreal that we're even talking about him in past tense like this.
He's talking about Daniel Aston, who was killed Saturday night while bartending at the club as well. What do you say to that?
It's definitely hard to hear. Somebody that a lot of people I've heard up until this point describe as a beacon of light and just a wonderful person and a wonderful person to work with. And to hear somebody have to, describe someone in the past tense that they either just saw or just had an interaction with is heartbreaking. And what the description leads me to a place where, Club Q has been that. So that person represented what Club Q was to all of us, an open, welcoming space that made us feel like we could be ourselves, especially in situations where a lot of people can't be authentic at home. Club Q provided that safe space, and the bartenders were a part of that ecosystem.
And Stony, you talked about the need for people outside of the community to be invested in it. In the aftermath of this, as we're learning more about the investigation, what do you want to hear from your political leaders, from your elected leaders in this state when they're speaking out about this?
I think for us, it's pointed, I think oftentimes when things happen, there are, vigils and there's space made so that friends and family can grieve and begin that process in community. And I think too often there are, whether it be local officials, things of that nature that do come and, they're there for that first wave of grief. But then after that, there's really nothing tangible that we can look back to and say, like, this is what came out of that. So I think what we need from our leaders at this point is just be true to what you're saying in your speeches, implement, those things. And we also need to all sit at the table and figure out what the next steps are. Because as tragic and heartbreaking as these circumstances are, our work really begins today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we have to make space for friends and family to grieve, and to be there for them and provide community. But we also have to have action behind our words, and that falls on our local, state, and federal officials to do that.